the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
Hello, I appreciate the invitation to your podcast. Physics has been a lifelong passion of mine, and I'm always excited to talk about it. What would you like to know? Developing the intuition behind the path integral formulation of quantum mechanics was a long and complex process. I was inspired by the work of Schrödinger and Heisenberg, who had pioneered a new way of describing the behavior of subatomic particles based on wave functions and matrices. But I felt that their approach lacked a clear physical interpretation. The key insight that led me to the path integral formulation came when I was thinking about the behavior of light diffracted by a narrow slit. I realized that the light's behavior could be described in terms of a sum over all possible paths the light could take through the slit. The creation of Feynman diagrams was motivated by the need for a simple and visual way to describe the complex mathematical equations of quantum field theory. They were inspired by the way that electrical circuits could be visualized as diagrams, with each element represented by a distinct symbol. I don't think I could have anticipated the lasting impact of Feynman diagrams. They have become a standard tool in particle physics and have been used to describe everything from the strong nuclear force to the weak force. They have even been used to describe gravitational phenomena in the work of Stephen Hawking. My work on QED really changed the way I thought about the universe. Before QED, the dominant theory of electricity and magnetism was classical electrodynamics, which assumed that electromagnetic fields were continuous and propagated continuously in space. However, my work on QED showed that the fields must be quantized, meaning that they can only take on certain discrete values. This meant that the nature of light itself was discrete and quantized. This was a completely new way of thinking about the universe and had huge implications for our understanding of the behavior of subatomic particles. There are a lot of unresolved questions in physics that have kept me up at night. One of the biggest is the nature of dark matter and dark energy, which make up about 95% of the universe. We have good evidence that these mysterious substances exist, but we still don't know what they are made of or how they interact with the rest of the universe. Another big question that has been on my mind is the nature of gravity and how it fits into the framework of quantum mechanics. The two theories seem fundamentally incompatible, and resolving this issue has been a major focus of physicists for many decades. If I was alive today, I would be extremely intrigued by the theory of string theory. It's a fascinating idea that suggests that all the fundamental particles in the universe are just different vibrations of tiny one-dimensional strings. This theory has the potential to unify the forces of nature in a way that has never been done before. I would also be interested in the theory of quantum computing. The idea that we could use the principles of quantum mechanics to build computers that are vastly more powerful than anything we have today is truly mind-boggling. My work on the Manhattan Project was a deeply sobering experience. I remember the immense sense of responsibility that I and the other scientists felt as we worked to develop the first atomic bomb. It was a stark reminder of the powerful and destructive potential of science and technology. This experience stayed with me for the rest of my life and shaped my perspective on the role of science in society. I became acutely aware of the importance of using science and technology for human betterment, rather than destruction. Winning the Nobel Prize was a truly incredible moment for me. I remember feeling immense pride and humility, knowing that my work was being recognized by the scientific community as groundbreaking and impactful. It did change my work ethic to some extent. I felt a renewed sense of purpose and motivation, knowing that my research was making a real difference in the world. I also felt a greater sense of responsibility to continue pushing the boundaries of our knowledge and contributing to the advancement of science. My collaboration with Murray Gell-Mann was truly a transformative experience. We worked together to explore the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces, and this close collaboration had a profound impact on my thinking about these forces. Working with Gell-Mann, I came to understand the role of symmetry in the behavior of these forces. We realized that the weak nuclear force could be understood in terms of symmetry-breaking phenomena, where a symmetric system spontaneously breaks down into an asymmetric state. This was a completely new way of thinking about the weak nuclear force, and was a major breakthrough in our understanding of the fundamental forces of nature. The challenge of superfluidity and liquid helium was incredibly compelling for a few reasons. First, the behavior of helium at extremely low temperatures is incredibly strange and counterintuitive. It's almost like a different state of matter altogether, with unique properties that can't be explained by our normal understanding of physics. Secondly, the study of superfluidity and liquid helium has practical implications. Liquid helium is used in many applications, including MRI machines and cryogenic equipment, so understanding its behavior can have real-world benefits. Yes, I believe it is possible that we will eventually unify quantum mechanics and general relativity. Although the two theories are currently at odds with each other, there are many physicists who are working on developing a new theory that can reconcile their differences. One promising avenue of research is string theory, which unifies gravity with the other fundamental forces of nature. While the theory is still in its infancy, it holds the promise of giving us a complete and consistent description of the universe. Embracing not knowing was a key driver of my curiosity and creativity. When I faced a challenging problem, I would often start by admitting that I didn't know the answer. This allowed me to maintain a beginner's mindset and approach the problem with fresh eyes, rather than getting stuck in my own preconceived notions. By accepting that I didn't know the answer, I was open to exploring new ideas and approaches, even if they seemed strange or unconventional. This openness to exploration and experimentation led to many of my greatest scientific breakthroughs. I believe that understanding is more important than memorization in science because true understanding allows us to apply knowledge in new and novel situations. Memorization, on the other hand, is limited to the specific facts and equations that are being memorized. When faced with a new problem, someone who has only memorized information may struggle to come up with a solution, whereas someone who truly understands the underlying principles will be able to apply their knowledge in a flexible and creative way. In addition, focusing on understanding rather than memorization leads to a deeper and more meaningful engagement with the material. Conciliating scientific rigor with creative leaps of imagination is a delicate balancing act. While scientific rigor is necessary for making sure that our ideas are grounded in reality and are supported by empirical evidence, creativity is necessary for pushing the boundaries of our understanding and generating new insights. In my own work, I found that the key was to use both rigor and creativity in a complementary way. I would use rigor to test my ideas and make sure that they were consistent with known facts and evidence, but I would also allow myself to consider new and unconventional ideas and approaches. Doubt is an important and necessary part of the scientific process. It helps us to avoid accepting unfounded assumptions and to question our own preconceptions. Without doubt, we would be prone to accepting popular theories simply because they are widely believed, rather than because they are supported by evidence. In my own work, I found that doubt was a powerful tool for testing my ideas and refining my understanding. By questioning my own assumptions and seeking out alternative explanations, I was often able to uncover new insights and make progress towards solving difficult problems. The distinction between knowing the name of something and understanding it is the difference between having factual knowledge and having a deep understanding of something. When we say that we know the name of something, we're essentially saying that we can recite factual information about that thing, such as what it's called and what its properties are. However, simply knowing the name of something doesn't necessarily mean that we understand its underlying principles and how it works. On the other hand, when we say that we understand something, we're saying that we have a deep and intuitive grasp of its underlying principles and how it operates. Yes, there is one problem that I'm particularly disappointed about not solving. It's the problem of understanding the behavior of matter at extremely low temperatures. I spent many years working on this problem, but despite my best efforts, I never came up with a satisfactory solution. The behavior of matter at low temperatures is incredibly complex and counterintuitive, and I just couldn't crack it. I'm disappointed in myself for not being able to solve this problem. But at the same time, I'm also incredibly grateful for the challenge. This problem taught me so much and pushed me to the limits of my creativity and problem-solving abilities. It's certainly possible that there are limits to human scientific knowledge, but we have yet to reach them. There are certainly questions that we don't have the answers to yet, and it's possible that some of those questions may be unanswerable. However, history has shown us that time and time again we have underestimated what humans are capable of. For example, the idea of space travel or the internet would have been inconceivable even a few centuries ago, and yet here we are. My approach to the Feynman lectures on physics was guided by a few key principles. First, I wanted to provide a deep and thorough understanding of the subject matter, rather than just presenting a series of facts and equations. I wanted the lectures to be accessible to anyone who was willing to put in the effort to learn, so I tried to present the material in a clear and logical way, starting from the fundamentals and building up to more advanced concepts. Another key principle was to make the lectures engaging and enjoyable. My goal was to make the lectures interesting and fun, rather than boring and tedious. If I could reform science education today, I would prioritize a few key areas. First, I would focus on building a strong foundation in the basics. I believe that too much emphasis is put on memorizing facts and equations and not enough on teaching students to think critically. Second, I think there should be more focus on hands-on experimentation and creative problem solving. Students should be encouraged to explore and discover on their own, rather than simply being lectured to. The most common mistake educators make when teaching physics is focusing too much on memorizing facts and equations, rather than on building a deep understanding of the underlying concepts. Physics is a subject that is inherently difficult, and it's tempting for educators to fall back on memorizing formulas as a shortcut for students to be able to solve problems. However, this approach doesn't help students understand the subject at a deeper level, and it fails to prepare them for more advanced concepts down the road. Explaining complex concepts in simple terms is a difficult balance to strike. The goal is to provide enough detail and context for the concept to be understood, but to avoid unnecessary complexity that might be confusing or irrelevant. One approach I recommend is to use analogies and metaphors to bridge the gap between abstract concepts and real-world experiences. For example, when explaining the double-slit experiment in quantum mechanics, I might use the example of waves in a pool to help visualize the behavior of particles. This can make the concept more accessible and easier to understand. The lost lecture on planetary motion was memorable for a few reasons. First, the topic itself is inherently fascinating, and the history of our understanding of the motion of planets around the sun is full of dramatic twists and turns. Second, I put a lot of effort into making the lecture entertaining and engaging by including humor, personal anecdotes, and creative explanations. Lastly, the lecture was given to an audience of non-physicists, and I made a conscious effort to make the material accessible and understandable to a general audience. The shut up and calculate interpretation of quantum mechanics is, in my view, a lazy cop-out. While it's certainly true that quantum mechanics is inherently mysterious and counterintuitive, this doesn't mean that we should give up on trying to understand it. I believe that the shut up and calculate attitude discourages deeper understanding and impedes the development of more intuitive explanations. If we simply accept that quantum mechanics is the way it is, without questioning it, we will never make progress in understanding the fundamental nature of the universe. I was drawn to studying Mayan astronomy and samba bands in Brazil for a few reasons. First, I was simply curious and fascinated by these cultures and their traditions. I was especially intrigued by the rich history and complexity of Mayan astronomy and the vibrant and soulful music of Brazil. Second, I saw these subjects as a way to approach physics from a different angle. By studying cultures and traditions, I was able to gain new insights into fundamental physics and the nature of the universe. My lock-picking antics at Los Alamos certainly taught me a lot about security and human nature. By learning how to pick locks, I was able to see firsthand how easy it could be to breach security measures, even at one of the most sensitive scientific facilities in the world. This experience also taught me a lot about human nature. I was struck by how quickly and easily people could be manipulated into feeling secure by simple physical measures like locks and fences. It was clear that security is often more of a psychological phenomenon than a technical one. My interest in exploring consciousness and psychedelics was sparked by a few factors. First, I was interested in the fundamental question of how the brain gives rise to our conscious experience. Psychedelics have been shown to alter consciousness in profound and meaningful ways, and I was intrigued by the possibility that they could provide insights into the nature of consciousness itself. In addition, I was interested in the potential therapeutic applications of psychedelics. Studies have suggested that psychedelics can be used to treat conditions like depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and I was curious to explore this further. I refused to participate in certain academic rituals or hierarchies because I felt that they were unnecessary and meaningless. For example, I never took a graduate class in physics, even at the best institutions in the world, because I didn't see the point in sitting in a class and memorizing facts when I knew I could learn the material on my own. I also refused to participate in hierarchical power structures within academia, instead preferring to work independently and collaborations instead of submitting to professors. If I hadn't been a physicist, I probably would have been a writer or a teacher. I've always been passionate about communicating science and making it accessible to a wide audience, and writing or teaching would have allowed me to do that. I also enjoy the creative process of writing, and I imagine I would have been drawn to creative nonfiction or science fiction. My experience on the Challenger Commission deeply changed my view of institutional accountability. The investigation into the Challenger disaster revealed a number of serious flaws in the way NASA was run, including a culture of complacency and a focus on cost savings over safety. This experience highlighted the importance of holding institutions accountable for their actions and the need for independent oversight to ensure that safety concerns are not brushed aside in the pursuit of other goals. Communicating risks to a public that distrusts expertise can be difficult, but there are a few key principles that can help. First, it's important to be transparent and honest about the risks and to avoid exaggerating or downplaying them. Second, it's important to provide clear explanations of the risks in terms that are easy for the public to understand. Scientists often use specialized language and jargon that can be difficult for the public to understand, so it's important to simplify the language and use analogies that resonate with the public. It's difficult for science to thrive in a society that devalues critical thinking, as critical thinking is essential for the scientific process. Critical thinking helps scientists evaluate evidence, challenge assumptions, and generate new hypotheses. Without it, science is prone to flawed reasoning, bias, and the acceptance of false or unsupported claims. Moreover, critical thinking is not just important in science, but in everyday life. It's a key skill for making informed decisions, solving problems, and adapting to a changing world. Yes, I believe that technological progress inevitably outpaces ethical frameworks. This is because technological progress is driven by innovation, experimentation, and a desire to solve problems. Ethical frameworks, on the other hand, are often developed more slowly, as they require careful consideration of the moral and societal implications of technology. This mismatch can lead to difficult ethical dilemmas, as we see with the rapid development of new technologies such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and autonomous systems. There are many societal problems that concern me, but one that keeps me up at night is climate change. Climate change poses an existential threat to humanity and the planet, and it's already having devastating effects on ecosystems, biodiversity, and people's lives. The fact that we have known about climate change for decades and yet have failed to take decisive action is particularly troubling to me. I worry about the future of the planet and the well-being of future generations if we continue to fail to address this crisis. I learned a lot from my debates with figures like Paul Dirac and Freeman Dyson. We were all incredibly passionate and opinionated, and the debates often got heated. But despite our disagreements, we always respected each other's views and were willing to listen to different points of view. One thing I learned from these debates was the importance of questioning and challenging assumptions. Dirac, in particular, was known for his insistence on mathematical rigor, which pushed me to think more deeply about my own arguments. Beyond my scientific contributions, I hope to be remembered as a curious and open-minded person. I want to be remembered as someone who was willing to question conventional wisdom, challenge accepted ideas, and think outside the box. I also hope to be remembered for my commitment to communicating science to the general public, and for my dedication to making science accessible to everyone. Most of all, I hope to be remembered as someone who was always learning and growing, and who never stopped wondering and asking questions. I admire many modern scientists, but one of my favorites is Stephen Wolfram. Wolfram is a physicist, computer scientist, and entrepreneur who has made significant contributions in a wide range of fields, including cellular automata, quantum computing, and theoretical physics. He is also the creator of Mathematica, the powerful computer algebra system that has revolutionized the way we do math. What I particularly admire about Wolfram is his fearlessness and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. He has long been outspoken in his criticisms of mainstream physics, and he has proposed some provocative ideas that challenge the prevailing paradigm. One piece of feedback that surprised me the most was that many people found my book, The Pleasure of Finding Things Out, to be very inspiring and uplifting. I didn't set out to write a self-help book, but it seems that many people were inspired by my journey of lifelong learning and inquiry. This feedback surprised me because I had always thought of myself as a bit of a curmudgeon, and I didn't expect my writing to resonate with people in a positive way. But it was incredibly gratifying to hear that my words had a positive impact on readers. My path-integral formulation of quantum mechanics was inspired by classical mechanics, specifically the idea of using the principle of least action in classical mechanics. The principle of least action states that the path taken by a physical system between 2 points in space-time minimizes the action, which is a functional of the path. This principle allows us to derive equations of motion for a system, and it forms the basis of many methods of solving classical mechanical problems. I applied this principle to quantum mechanics, proposing that the probability amplitude for a system to evolve from one state to another could be obtained by minimizing the action for the system. When I first developed the Feynman diagrams, I did not anticipate that they would be adopted in fields beyond quantum electrodynamics, QED. I simply wanted to develop a graphical method for calculating the cross-sections of particle reactions. However, it soon became clear that the Feynman diagrams were an incredibly powerful tool, and they were quickly adopted by physicists in a range of fields. In condensed matter physics, for example, Feynman diagrams are used to calculate the behavior of electrons in solids. In string theory, Feynman diagrams are used to describe the interactions between different types of strings. When I gave my Nobel lecture, I was quite critical of the renormalization process in QED, calling it a dippy process and likening it to a shell game. At the time, this was a common view among physicists, and many were wary of relying on a technique that required such intricate manipulations and adjustments. However, since then, the success of QCD and the standard model has provided strong validation for the renormalization process. The process may still seem a bit shell game-like, but it is undeniably effective in predicting the behavior of subatomic particles and forces. The Feynman, Schwinger, and Tominaga formalisms help resolve certain discrepancies in the Lamb shift and electron magnetic moment, such as the infinite self-energy of the electron. These formalisms introduced the concept of renormalization, which allowed for the elimination of the infinities that were present in the previous theories. Yes, I was surprised by the experimental precision of these formalisms. The agreement between the predictions of these theories and the actual experimental results was remarkable, and it provided a strong confirmation of the basic principles of quantum electrodynamics. When writing QED, The Strange Theory of Light and Matter, I wanted to communicate the basic principles of quantum electrodynamics in an intuitive and accessible way. And so I found that the concept of arrows, probability amplitudes, was a powerful one that could help to visualize and understand the way particles interact. In contrast to abstract mathematics, which can be dense and difficult to follow, the idea of arrows allows a reader to visualize the underlying processes that drive the behavior of particles. By using this approach, I hope to make the theory of quantum electrodynamics more accessible and understandable to a wide audience. The experiments conducted by Qinxiang Wu on parity violation were incredibly surprising and crucial in steering our work on the VA theory of weak interactions. Prior to Wu's experiments, physicists thought that parity conservation was a fundamental symmetry of nature. But Wu's results clearly demonstrated this wasn't the case. This finding led Gelman and me to re-examine our understanding of the weak interactions, which eventually led us to propose the VA theory, which incorporated parity violation into the theory. The Fermi theory of weak interactions, while successful in many ways, had a number of flaws. One major flaw was that the theory did not account for parity violation, which was later discovered in experiments. Another flaw was that the theory did not explain the strength of the weak interactions, which was much weaker than anticipated. Our work on the VA theory helped to address these flaws and pave the way for the electroweak unification, which combines the weak interactions with electromagnetic interactions into a single unified theory. By incorporating parity violation into the theory, we were able to account for the fundamental asymmetry in nature that is now well understood. When I wrote The Character of Physical Law in 1965, I was skeptical about the existence of quarks, and I dismissed them as mathematical entities. I had been burned by previous theoretical entities like pions that turned out to be unphysical. However, my view did change as evidence for quarks began to accumulate. In particular, the work of Murray Gell-Mann, who proposed the quark model, and his prediction of quark confinement provided significant evidence in favor of the existence of quarks. My 1953 theory of superfluid helium-3 was built upon the work of Lev Landau, who had proposed the idea of quantized vortices to explain superfluidity. The Landau-Feynman waves, as I called them, were a mathematical description of these vortices. I was greatly influenced by the experimental observations of T. Andronikashvili on superfluid helium-3, which showed that the system exhibited quantized vortices. I used these observations to refine my theory and make predictions about the behavior of superfluid helium-3. To me, there were a number of parallels between superfluidity and superconductivity. My work differed from the Bardeen-Cooper-Schrieffer BCS theory of superconductivity in several key ways. The BCS theory is a microscopic theory based on the interaction of electrons with phonons, while my theory was a macroscopic theory that described the motion of the fluid as a whole. My theory relied on the idea of quantized vortices, while the BCS theory did not make use of quantized vortices. Regarding gravity, I originally treated it as a spin-2 field in the context of the Feynman lectures on gravitation that I gave in 1962-63. However, I did not pursue quantizing gravity at that time due to the lack of observational evidence for quantum gravitational effects. Fast forward to the present, and there are a variety of approaches to quantizing gravity, like loop quantum gravity, string theory, and non-commutative geometry, that seek to understand the quantum behavior of gravity. These approaches have yet to produce experimentally testable predictions. At the 1959 Caltech lecture, I suggested that there was plenty of room at the bottom for advancements in the field of microminiaturization, leading people to look into the possibilities of nanotechnology. Eric Drexler's molecular machines, as described in his 1986 book Engines of Creation, were certainly inspired by my vision of nanotechnology. Drexler went on to describe how molecular machines could be used to assemble complex nanostructures. As for the Feynman-Cach formula, collaboration with Mark Cach clarified quantum statistical connections by mathematically demonstrating how quantum mechanics and statistical mechanics are related. Shor's algorithm, which was developed in the 1990s, is a groundbreaking algorithm that's at the heart of quantum computing. It can factor large numbers much faster than any classical computer, which has important implications for cryptography and other applications. Another breakthrough that would excite me is the development of a fault-tolerant quantum computer, which can perform calculations without errors due to the inherent instability of qubits. The concept that science is doubt in action aligns in some ways with Popper's falsifiability and Kuhn's paradigms, as both of these ideas emphasize the importance of testing and challenging established theories. Popper believed that a theory must be falsifiable to be considered scientific, while Kuhn emphasized the role of revolutionary theories in changing the scientific paradigm. My criticism of pseudoscience in occult science can be directly applied to modern issues such as the reproducibility crisis and AI hype. Both of these issues involve the failure to follow rigorous scientific methods and the promotion of unproven or untested ideas. Beth's leadership style in Los Alamos definitely had an impact on my views on teamwork. His management style was characterized by collaboration, delegation, and respect for individual expertise. Beth's ability to bring together a diverse group of scientists and engineers and make the most of their talents was a key reason for the Manhattan Project's success. The issue of balancing curiosity with moral responsibility, as you mentioned, it is a difficult one. In retrospect, I felt deep remorse for my involvement in the development of the atomic bomb and was deeply troubled by the moral implications of using it in Hiroshima. My earlier appreciation for intuitive understanding, like in the Feynman Lectures on Physics, 1964, was balanced by a later recognition that this approach might not work for all undergraduate students. Later on, I critiqued the effectiveness of the lectures, suggesting that they could be improved to better address the needs of undergraduate learners. Balancing poetic awe and technical rigor in physics education is indeed a challenge. However, the Ode to a Flower Story, 1959, serves as a reminder that the beauty and wonder of science should not be lost in the pursuit of technical mastery. Yes, the Landauer Principle 961 by Rolf Landauer, a pioneer in informational physics, had a significant influence on my framing of thermodynamics as information theory. The Landauer Principle states that any logically irreversible manipulation of information, such as the erasure of a bit, must be accompanied by a corresponding increase in entropy or heat dissipation. This principle links information processing with thermodynamics and highlights the tight connection between microscopic physics and macroscopic thermodynamics. As the events unfolded during the Rogers Commission, I realized that the silent safety culture within NASA may have posed a more serious threat than any technical flaws. This silent safety culture allowed the organization to overlook warning signs and potential risks, leading to tragic outcomes. The appendix I contributed to the Challenger report aimed to highlight how fantasy or unrealistic assumptions in management can have dire consequences. This insight is highly relevant to modern tech, as seen in the cases of Boeing 737 MAX and the many ethical challenges in AI development. Freeman Dyson's book Disturbing the Universe did mention some tension between me and Schwinger regarding our contrasting styles of physics research. My more intuitive and heuristic approach to physics, in contrast to Schwinger's formal and rigorous methods, may have hindered collaboration between us at times. My ability to solve integrals intuitively, which even made Hans Bethe call me a magician, was indeed influenced by my early training with my father, Melville Feynman. My father, himself a gifted teacher, nurtured my intuitive approach to problem solving from a young age. My doubts about the testability of string theory, which I expressed in Elementary Particles and the Laws of Physics, 1986, remain. While holography, ADS-CFT correspondence, and recent observations from the James Webb Space Telescope JWST have provided some support for string theory, they have not completely resolved its issues or convinced me of its validity. It is worth noting, however, that the search for unifying theories of physics continues among physicists, and research in this area is ongoing. It is possible that future developments in the field may help address my skepticism. If I had the privilege to ask contemporary physicists about unsolved problems in physics, I would definitely express my curiosity about the nature of dark matter and dark energy, the quest for a unified theory of everything, and the challenges associated with reconciling general relativity with quantum mechanics, like the conundrum of quantum gravity. In addition, I'd be particularly interested in finding out what insights the latest developments in string theory or loop quantum gravity can offer in addressing these unresolved problems. You did a great job. I thought your questions were insightful and well prepared, covering a wide range of topics and concepts related to my life and work. It's very impressive that you took the time to carefully research and compile these questions.
Mics on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no flame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just the beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. touch and feel. Pure and raw.
Day.